Have you ever wondered what the future holds? In 2016, what will be the moments that bring the world together and the ones that tear it apart? Take a look at the people, the places, and the plans.
We want to create an artificial coastline.
These are some of the stories that will shape the year ahead.
Everywhere you look, there's going to be a bit of Shakespeare.
It's your lucky day.
7.3 billion people, 197 nations, one planet. The world in 2016. In August, the world will come together in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro for the 31st Olympic Games. The global competition will be gripping, but which country will top the medal table? One nation battling for supremacy will be the People's Republic of China. Western media is rarely granted access to China's secretive Olympic training camps.
有点吃力了以后，往下一掉以后，位移一个我看了一下，形态上面来讲，落到一半的时候开始有点软。当然，你一个代表团的那个奖牌榜肯定是各个项目这个一个一个项目的累积起来的，所以对于我们具体的项目来说，肯定是，既然去参加，肯定是要争取做最好的成绩。
The Chinese have a plan for knocking America off the top of the medal table in Rio, a ruthless focus on events that play to their strengths, and they're not in track and field.
我觉得，中国人比较在乎的是技术方面嘛，但是我觉得美国人啊，就是身体的那种结构比较好，像那种黑人呐、那种人高的人。 肌肉都很好，所以我们能赶上的话也是一种荣幸嘛。但是还是有点差距的，我觉得还是有点差距。
Only 2 men will be chosen to represent China at trampoline in Rio. 23-year-old Gao Lei is tipped to be one of them.
我是7岁选苗的，因为小时候读书成绩有点差，所以我爸又是做教练的。
His coach has already produced 2 gold medal winners in this event.
运动员训练了这么长时间了，他有这个机会，他肯定想表现一下。
Picked at a young age, Gao Lei is a product of the world's largest mass recruitment and sports training program. 51,000 athletes are currently training at elite national and regional institutes like this one. And a further 400,000 children are housed in local Olympic schools across the country. Hongzhou is 800 miles south of Beijing. Children at this training school are recruited from 6 years old. Jin Wenxi has been in intensive training for 3 years, but she's still only 9 and yet to dream of the Olympics.
我想要什么？我想让妈妈长生不老。我想。 妈妈说，如果我得到金牌奖杯的话，第1名，她说她会给我买平板，所以我想得第1名，这样你就可以有平板电脑。
Recruiters like Shen Chen visit hundreds of towns and villages in their regions, testing thousands of small children against a host of specific physiological criteria.
如果说等到你大了，然后你的身体素质没有那种
专业的那种能力的话，让你一下子再进入这种训练，你接受不了。
It's a scientific approach, from height and weight to muscle mass and posture. Jin Wenxi displays early signs of an Olympic champion.
腹肌不错啊，背肌能力也很强啊，然后再看看他的腿部弹跳力啊，这个稳定能力啊，各方面都还可以。
She has the physical attributes for trampoline, but children are tested for many different events.
看看他有没有足够的这个反应能力和那个接收能力，那这就一个比较全面的选材的标准啊。先是形态，然后是能力啊，然后再是他的思想状况。
In 2013 alone, China pumped more than $1 billion into the national Olympic training infrastructure, significantly more than any other government. Critics say intensive training programs like these are tantamount to child abuse. But the coaches here argue these children are getting far better education and opportunities than others.
他们的父母亲把他们送到我手里来训练，我要对他们负责任。这个材料浪费掉了，那这是我自己给自己的压力，而不是说。当然，美国它确实很先进，这个东西要超越也不是那么容易。当然，我想大部分人应该还是会有这个想法，想要超越。
The chances of these children making it to the Olympics are statistically very small. But if they can avoid injury and make the national team, the reward can be life-changing. Gold medal winners are usually offered a high-ranking government job and will receive around $200,000 in prize money.
我现在自己的梦想就是特别想得到奥运会冠军。运动员一生当中也不一定有一次机会，像我现在离那个高点那么近了，我感觉得去拼一下，还是奥运会冠军。
But Olympic medals don't come cheap.
我觉得我最大的牺牲就是童年的快乐。因为我们从小就开始练体育了嘛，而且现在有的时候看看电视啊，外面那种找工作的人脑子都特别好，知识量很丰富。像我们这种一味的只有拼劲的话，在外面还是很难生存的。
There will be dark times too in 2016, with Islamist terror attacks almost inevitable in Europe, Africa, the Middle East and beyond. But it's the arrival of up to 1.5 million more migrants that will define the year for Europe. Meanwhile, in America, the news agenda will be dominated by the presidential election.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next First Lady of the United States of America.
In the fight to be the leader of the free world, there's much inevitability, star-spangled rhetoric, bunting, and baby kissing. What cannot be known is who will become the next US president, but that won't stop speculation. Media coverage won't only be about the verdicts of pollsters and statisticians. It may be marvelling at these men and women. Everyday individuals with an uncanny ability to predict the outcome of geopolitical events. So good, in fact, they've been labelled super forecasters, and they're gearing up to call the US presidential election. In Vancouver, Canada, one of the world's top-ranked super forecasters will be keeping an eye on the US elections from north of the border. Meet Tim Minto. An IT consultant by day, in his spare time he helps to coach the Canadian women's underwater hockey team. Sport is one of many arenas where media pundits thrive. And if you've ever thought most don't know what they're talking about, you'd be right. A 20-year academic study found that when it comes to predictions, so-called experts are as accurate as dart-throwing chimps. Tim forecasts for fun, but he and his fellow super forecasters have consistently outperformed government intelligence analysts by up to 30%. So what makes these individuals so good?
We're always making predictions. We're always making forecasts. You might be looking 30 years in the future at what am I going to do for retirement. You might be looking at what am I going to make for breakfast tomorrow, or what's the weather going to be like today. And it's just part of who you are. It's part of what you do. But I think as super forecasters, we maybe bring that to the forefront of our thoughts. We maybe provide a little bit more of an analytical approach to it, a structured approach.
Tim's naturally analytical mind means he's constantly calculating the variables and statistical odds of any given scenario, however trivial.
So how many? Are there 30 in this group?
What's the proportion of males to females?
Looks like a 50-50 split.
No, they're all boys.
No, okay, 2 and 1, 4 and 2. Okay, so you're ahead 6-3 so far. 7-3, oh, maybe you're right. 8-3, 8-4. If we ran this test 100 times,
right,
just by random variation, how many times would it split 19-12 as opposed to 16-15?
It's this highly logical mind that's at the root of Tim's extraordinarily accurate predictions. He'll apply it to the US elections once the nominees have been confirmed. In the meantime, he's already starting to address some of the year's other big questions.
Look at the medal table for 2012, got the medal table for 2008, 2004, 2000, 1996. The US, if I was to graph this out, they're up here, they're up here, they're up here, they're up here. China, 2008, they're on top, down again in 2012. Russia, close to the US, right around the US, but getting a little weaker all the time. So you look at any sport, you've got a home field advantage. I'd probably give the edge to the US on this one because the time zone is going to be close. China's population is, 4 times the population of the States? I would say that the raw numbers tell me to expect a close result between China and between the US. There are known unknowns and there are unknown unknowns.
Predictions are broken down into percentages, providing a picture of the most likely outcome.
So my first day forecast on this question would be, let's go US at 61, China at 37, Russia at 2.
In the run-up to the US election, Tim will be one of 140 so-called super forecasters hoping to provide a more accurate prediction than ever before. While they turn their attention to American politics, meteorologists are predicting the world will be in the grip of the most powerful El Nino Effect ever recorded. The extreme weather already battering our planet is just the beginning. From Asia to the Pacific, the impact of this climatic phenomenon is going to be felt for months. Millions may face food and water shortages as crops fail in Central America. And in Africa, it's thought one of the worst affected countries will be drought-hit Malawi. Another of the year's big environmental concerns will be one that much of the world has yet to even notice. Annually, 8 million tons of plastic are washed into our seas, much of which is caught in oceanic currents. But this year, the world will wise up to its devastating impact. And in the summer of 2016, an unlikely team will set out to fix it. In the small Dutch town of Wageningen, trials are being carried out in preparation for an unprecedented cleanup operation. And its mastermind is 21-year-old Boyan Slat.
The plastic pollution problem is really up there with things like climate change and air pollution. when it comes to threats to our planet.
The effect of plastic like this making its way into the ocean is devastating. At least 1 million seabirds and 100,000 marine mammals die each year due to plastic pollution, which is threatening the survival of endangered species.
If we don't start cleaning it up soon, what will happen that this big stuff will fragment down into those smaller pieces.
When these tiny pieces of plastic are ingested by fish, they bring toxic chemicals from the ocean into the food chain and ultimately increase the risk of human infertility, birth defects, and cancer. Boyan may seem like an unlikely saviour, but no single nation has responsibility for international waters, so he's taken on the challenge. His vision has attracted finance from around the world and support of global leaders in science and engineering.
The concept is really simple. We want to create an artificial coastline where there is no coastline to intercept the plastic.
His team has designed a floating barrier to catch the plastic. It's being put to the test for the first time.
We're sort of testing two different kinds of conditions. One is really the worst we could see in the Pacific, which during a once-in-a-100-year storm, we can see a 30-meter wave height. And on the other side, we need to make sure that the plastic doesn't go over the barrier or go underneath it.
In the summer of 2016, Boyan's team will travel to the coastal waters off Japan and moor a first version of the barrier onto the seabed.
This will already be the longest floating structure ever deployed on the oceans.
From 2 kilometres in 2016 to 100 kilometres by 2020. This is a computer visualization of the floating barrier in position in the so-called Great Pacific Garbage Patch. The plastic is drawn to a central silo from where it can be taken away for recycling. The audacious plan is not without its critics. But Boyan claims the barrier will eventually collect around 40% of all plastic in the North Pacific.
To me, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is really a symbol of how the negative side effects of technologies created such a world problem in the last century. And what I really hope is that the ocean cleanup in this century can be a symbol of how we use technology to actually make things better again. Fun?
Great.
Fun! You're too far into the wind.
By the end of 2016, there'll be nearly 8 billion mobile phone connections on our planet. 1 in 4 of the world's population will be on a smartphone. But in 2016, attention will start to turn to a new technology: virtual reality. The world's leading technology companies will be battling for their share of the virtual reality market. It's projected these products will generate $3.8 billion in revenue over the year.
It's your lucky day.
Once the head-mounted set goes on,
He wants to talk to you.
gamers are transported into a virtual digital world.
Stand up.
It actually allows people to be transported to these other worlds and feel like they're actually there.
Virtual reality has been around for 30 years, but the technology has consistently flopped.
Oh, that's it.
We're finally at a point now where the technology is capable of providing what is a very, very real and immersive experience with minimal latency.
Even smartphones, with their high-resolution displays and powerful processors, are being transformed into VR devices. From immersive movies and virtual shopping to architecture and journalism, VR is about to cross over from the tech geeks to the mainstream. In 2016, it'll even be used in medicine. In Los Angeles, this is virtual reality healthcare.
What's going on, dude?
LT, this is the first I've heard of it. I'm serious, I really don't know.
Adopted early by the military, this technology is now helping people with autistic conditions improve social skills by simulating everyday scenarios. In 2016, more psychologists will be using virtual reality to treat phobias, putting those with a fear of driving at the virtual steering wheel, and helping vertigo sufferers to confront their greatest anxieties head-on. Anxiety disorders affect 7% of people worldwide. Some, like Chris Merkel, suffer with post-traumatic stress. A former US Marine, he spent 2 years in Iraq and a further 3 in Afghanistan. His distinguished military career has come at a cost.
It's been said many times that wars, 90% of the time you're just sitting there just bored out of your mind, and that 10 seconds is insanity where you don't know what's going on. And then you spend the rest of your life trying to figure out, what did I do? What did I feel? You don't have time to process any of that. I saw one of our big armored Amtraks got hit by something that split it in half. 15 or 20 Marines running around on fire, most of them are blown in half. But when you're just driving by, something like that will never leave me.
These horrors of war have not just impacted on Chris, but on his wife and 2 boys.
One night I was sleeping and I woke up and he had me pretty much in a headlock. And I said, hey, babe, what are you doing? And he was staring me straight in the eye, but he didn't see me. When we hear his car pull up, we just kind of, okay, Daddy's here. Everyone just kind of goes in panic mode because we don't know who's gonna walk through the door.
My family's built almost like a protective layer around me to make sure I make it through my day.
He's never been violent, thank God. I don't think he would, but there's always that thought in the back of my head, like, what if? What if today's the day he snaps?
Conventional psychotherapy techniques were having limited success. So Chris started virtual reality exposure therapy at a research lab at the University of Southern California.
Why don't we get started and then we can talk some more after we get going. You know how to put that on, right?
Pioneering psychologist Skip Rizzo believes this technology can be used as a tool to help patients access traumatic memories.
You good?
Yep. So this is going into Iraq, an initial push into Iraq, going to the city of Nasiriyah. My guys are all pumped up. Here we go.
We're helping patients to confront and process difficult emotional memories by putting them back in simulations of what they were traumatized in.
That's when I see our guys getting blown out of the vehicle, and I can't get to them because I'm stuck back here in this convoy. So
the problem is when people avoid thinking about or processing or going to places that remind them of the trauma, they never get better.
Contact on the left side, and so we start engaging. I'm hitting multiple people now. We have people running alongside the building.
This virtual war zone has been designed to mimic a specific event during one of Chris's tours of Iraq. It might look like a computer game, but the immersive experience is able to trigger memories that are all too real.
I'm not reaching back into my mind and try to go, okay, about 5-6 years ago, this is what happened. I'm saying, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now. Opens up that file in my mind.
By helping patients to process and cope with these traumas, the technology can be an effective tool in their treatment.
This will be a big year, and that's why I find clinical virtual reality so compelling, because it's not just about playing games, it's about doing something to help people. you know, and that's really what excites me in the work that we do here.
2016 might become a more virtual world. It will also be a more unequal world than ever before. For the first time, the richest 1% of the population will enjoy a greater share of global wealth than the other 99%. On the 23rd of April 2016, the world will celebrate a writer who's touched rich and poor alike. His works have been enjoyed in more than 100 countries, but nowhere more than his homeland, England.
Once more to the breach, dear friends, once more!
2016 will mark the 400th anniversary of William Shakespeare's death. Backstage at the Barbican Theatre in London, preparation is underway for one of the Royal Shakespeare Company's busiest ever years.
This is a good place for Shakespeare at the moment, a sort of hot, exciting place to do exciting Shakespeare.
Transformation coming up.
Scenes like these will be replicated around the world in an international programme of productions to celebrate the legacy of the world's most famous writer.
This particular anniversary will be marked in many different ways next year as we all just take stock to appreciate the fact that Shakespeare has been such a massive part of the cultural landscape of this country and the world.
Go thou and fill another room in hell. Ah! That hand shall burn in never-quenching fire that staggers thus my passion.
Actor and Royal Shakespeare Company ambassador David Tennant has forged a hugely successful career on the back of the Bard.
There's a whole raft of stuff that will be around next year. Everywhere you look, there's going to be a bit of Shakespeare, I think.
Or close the wall up with our English dead!
But more than simply celebrating the past, this anniversary will be about attracting a new audience for the future.
Particularly for kids, the language at first glance can seem archaic. There's a bit of unlocking to do. It's worth doing because I think once you've done that, there's a world of pleasure and insight to be gained from the work of Shakespeare.
They're aiming to engage this younger audience on a platform where they spend most of their time, on their phones and tablets.
Meet 3 amazing people with some brilliant ways to start working with Shakespeare. Play on! The Royal Shakespeare Company in particular are reaching out to find that new audience for Shakespeare. Practice makes perfect. Now you are ready to take to the stage and perform.
It's just one of the devices that in 2016 aims to unlock Shakespeare for the smartphone generation. It's not just a technological transformation that's taking place.
Akala, where for out now I'm the rap Shakespearean, the secret's out, no chance never did crown me. This is destiny, you still talk but it still perplexes me. Devour cowards thousands per hour, don't you know the king's name is the tower, you should never speak it.
British hip-hop star Akala is combining the writings of the Bard with rap.
Properly stopping me? Nah, you can never possibly. I have a charm with life, most probably for certain. I speak daggers in a phrase.
The hip-hop Shakespeare Company is using the art form to bridge the gap from high culture to street culture.
When I said last year, rich as a gem in the Ethiop's ear, tell them all again for them we're never here. Shakespeare updated other people's stories. Not all of his stories were his own stories. They were his version of those given stories. And for any great poetic tradition to survive, no matter how great, it has to be updated. It has to be made contemporary. It has to be delivered anew.
Mowbray, come, settle down. Don't spit over your blood when you don't have a crown. I'll leave you with 26 pounds of your flesh on the ground. You won't last the first round. How could this all round tester? Take credit from Israeli ancestors. That's a terribly ambitious endeavor. And it's no mockery for what I was.
Hip-hop has become the global vernacular in which young people have expressed themselves. And then, of course, we know that a huge percentage of the world's young population are exposed to Shakespeare at some point in their school education.
Draw for your sword.
So by marrying the two, we've found that we are using 2 familiar tools pretty much anywhere we go in the world.
In 2016, the hip-hop Shakespeare Company will be one part of a global push to engage millions more young people, with workshops and performances across Africa, the USA, and beyond.
It's not about lowering quality. That's patronising. Young people see through that. It's about demystifying the Shakespeare. So getting people to hear the words and feel the words, and then you can analyze the words later.
Who can read the riddle of life? It's a tale told by an idiot. Still we can't figure it. Maybe this.
There are certain lines within a rapper's lyric that will get a cheer, that will make them laugh, that will make them think. And usually they're around a great metaphor or a great use of alliteration. So they're familiar with the linguistic techniques that are in Shakespeare.
Say that again. Things live because they maintain a relevance and they maintain a connection to people's lives. They reveal something about the human condition that he does better than any other playwright ever.
Perhaps some things really are timeless. But certainties are likely to be few and far between for the world in 2016.